So hello and welcome to whoever may be watching. We have the pleasure of meeting today in the context of the 67th UN Commission on the Status of Women. And we are having a conversation hosted by the Justice Coalition of Religious, or JCOR, and here chatting with one of JCOR's founding members, UNANIMA International, who is represented as an organization by its director and representative to the United Nations, Sister Jean Quinn of the Daughters of Wisdom. And of course, she, prior to her role as UN representative for UNANIMA, comes with a lot of background from different parts of the world, serving women and girls in a variety of different contexts. And today we will have the pleasure of talking to Jean about the organization of UNANIMA, about how it contributes to the Commission on the Status of Women and why this commission is important to UNANIMA as an organization. And then we'll get a little bit as well into her own perspective from her personal background experience and life in ministry. So Jean, first of all, thank you so much for agreeing to have this conversation with us here, part of CSW. And I wonder, before we do anything else, if there's anything you'd like to add to that brief introduction, other than kind of your current titles and your congregation. Is there anything else that you'd like to share by way of introduction?
Yeah, I mean, my Irish background, of course, is really important, Teresa. So I grew up in Sligo in the northwest of Ireland, and very much associated with song and dance celebrations and stories. And that's really important to me in the context of which I work now, because somehow wisdom, Sophia, is found in those experiences. So as I look back, I think I wouldn't have known then, of course, that all that experience was something about wisdom. But also, isn't it, when you look back, you begin to understand how things evolved and developed. So, yeah, so that's me. I'm one of 9 children. Loads. You talk about the numbers in UNANIMA International or JCOR. My family could make up that number too, my extended family. And recently I was at the wedding of my nephew, and what really struck me, the church was in sort of a very, very rural area. It was a beautiful day and full of young people. I've never seen so many young people together. But it was a wonderful celebration, even in the church. Perhaps, mightn't be the place everybody wants to be. And I was just this morning thinking of this. Sometime during the end of the Mass, we broke into Wild Mountain Thyme, if you remember that song. And it was just beautiful. I could just feel wisdom. And we came out to a coffee cart in the middle of nowhere. And it was like wisdom has led her table. She's blessed it and broken it and placed it here in this place. It was wonderful, and it's still with me.
Wow, yes. And of course, as we're meeting the day before St. Patrick's Day, of course, we have to invoke the Irish origins as well. So that's an important, certainly an important piece of the view that you bring. So I wonder if we could kind of get underway by talking a little bit about UNANIMA itself. In just a short description, how would you introduce the organization UNANIMA International to someone if you met them in the hallway between events here at the CSW?
Well, I say exactly as you said. This is UNANIMA International. It's a coalition of 23, almost 24 communities of women religious in 96 countries now, with over 25,000 members. We focus particularly on women, children, and girls. And that has been really significant since its foundation in 2002. We're up to 2023 now. So I think that's been really important to UNANIMA International and been successful in as much as any organization can be successful.
Amazing to note those years. You've now just past 20 years, which is just really a strong showing for something that started as, I imagine, a couple conversations.
Actually, I'm sitting in the office, the UNANIMA International office in New York, opposite the UN, and we have a picture on the wall here of a map of the world, of where the sisters are, where the grassroots people are, the countries they're in, and all these communities of women. You wouldn't like me to read out all of them, but I just think I see it all just as a gift.
Absolutely. I know you talk a lot about wisdom, and it's an important part of your charism, certainly as a daughter of wisdom, but it's something important to understand, I think, in every conversation that happens at the United Nations when we're talking about peace building and human rights, that we're always trying to let wisdom be the loudest voice in the room and the one that talks the longest. And we sort that out by bringing many together.
Sorry. One of the things that I think of, oh, I beg your pardon, am I coming in at the wrong times?
It's just, I think there's just a lag between us, and that's what's making it difficult, but that's okay. Please go ahead.
I suppose what for me I have a background in wisdom coming from the Daughters of Wisdom. That's my DNA, if you like. And then I come to UNANIMA International, and people say, well, what is UNANIMA International? So we explain the UN and the anima, which is it's an energizing spirit, is the best way for me to put it. And when I go into the UN, Teresa, and I don't think I've missed a day that I don't take up my badge and I hold it. That's the 24 communities of women religious. And I can see wherever I've gone, and I don't think I've missed it, but that's what I do. And so I kind of say it's like a collective wisdom brought together. There's a freedom in not being one community. This is just my experience and has been for a long, long time, ever before I came to UNANIMA. There is something about the collaboration that is very unique. So I'm not holding on to wisdom, or somebody's not holding on to charity, or somebody's not holding on to mercy. It's that collaborative approach, which is wisdom, and which is an energy, which is inspiration, which is actually love. And so I think in that experience, that's where transformation happens. Now, I'm not saying it's perfect. There's always the ups and downs, but we learn through them. And that's what transformation is about, of course.
And so then, just for those who aren't familiar with the words, you broke down for a moment there that UNANIMA is a combination of UN, United Nations, and anima, which is the Latin feminine word for spirit. So is it that collaboration? That's how you would say that's the feminine spirit that UNANIMA brings?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about, that whole area of collaborating, engaging with people, not being siloed. I mean, it's the word we keep using here, but that's in my head the way I see it. And so it makes it very easy to work with people at the UN as well, because I'm coming to that space, not just with UNANIMA International. I'm also working at the UN in a particular way.
That's right. And that's the same idea of collaboration that was behind the creation, the formation of the Justice Coalition of Religious, and along with so many of the working groups and NGO committees with whom we all collaborate on a daily basis in order to really accomplish any of our work at the UN.
Actually, I'm glad you said that, Teresa, because as I was speaking, I was thinking of JCOR as well. And in many ways, we're the same and we're different, like any of the other groups. But it has struck me during CSW what we bring, we turn everything on its head, first of all. And because we've had a long dominated church and world, and we're trying to bring about the divine feminine and really trying to get a rebalance, if you like, in social and political spaces. So I think that's what it's about for me. And somehow we get the wisdom to do what we're able to do. And doing what I'm doing, and this is the truth, I'm around a long time in our world, but this has been the most engaging for me in terms of my experience of wisdom, because I think wisdom, the feminine space of God, is found in the experience. And all the time stopping and thinking, gosh, this is where wisdom has led me. You know, not always a place I want to be, but nonetheless, she's led me to this place. And I just, like yourself, Teresa, meeting very unique, special people where wisdom is experienced, you know. And it really, I was brought up near the lake Isle of Innisfree, where we could hear lake waters lapping by the seashore. And we can find that seashore anywhere. It doesn't have to be back there, but that kind of thing. And I think that's really important.
So I'd love to hear a little bit more from you about, I guess, some of the gifts and challenges that come with working in collaboration in that way. You know, we're often using the expression that if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go together, which is to say that, you know, collaboration isn't an easy thing. It doesn't just happen by accident. But clearly you have really wrapped yourself in a culture of collaboration, both in UNANIMA and JCOR and several other groups here in your UN advocacy. So I wonder if you could just share a bit about how that collaboration has presented challenges to you, and then also how has it been fruitful, perhaps in even serving as a model for what we'd like to see among governments.
Yeah, it's a big question, actually. I'm going to go back again to collaboration. Obviously, I think it is building a collaboration with UN agencies, with member states, with governments. And before I ever came to the UN, I mean, I had worked with the government in Ireland, particularly around homelessness. And so I found myself at the UN and almost like having to start that process all over again. And really and truly, it's about relationship. I think we model that for them. And it's almost like after we had the Commission on Social Development in February, it was almost like it wasn't perfect, but there was an engagement that I mightn't have felt before. And that was really of us just kind of building respect for each other, not wanting to all of us agree, but how am I learning with each other? You know, what space am I in? And that goes back, Teresa, to, as you know, I worked on the 2 resolutions on homelessness, which were historic resolutions at the UN. And here we are working with a number of member states, with myself and one of Our Lady, I forget, Mary Ann Antoine, let me say it that way. And it was, the topic that we were looking at was important to all of us. And we were all committed. And so it was almost that, you know, that round table leadership that we bring as females. And it's that going back to that feminine. So I think that's what has been really important for me. It's relationships, it's building up the relationship, it's being able to have a conversation. And I have the image of wisdom setting her table and expanding her tent. And so that everybody is there with all the frustrations, Teresa, because it's very complex, but full of respect for each other. I have enjoyed that tremendously. When people say about the difficulties of working with the UN and member states, I do have that good experience of working with the resolutions, and I never felt an outsider. And I'd be quite clear, I'd say it if I did. So in some ways, that needs to be expanded. And I had a meeting this morning about the World Social Summit in 2025. And in my head, I had that sort of memory of it is possible if we can work together and if we can engage with the people who have the same passion as we do for those left furthest behind. Excuse me.
That's great, Jean. And I know you've mentioned there some of your specific work. Certainly, you're a leader. We who are at the UN know you to be a leader on the issue of ending homelessness. And so if I could, I'd like to kind of turn our conversation a little bit in the direction of both that and this year's theme for the Commission on the Status of Women, which is the grand combination of ideas that is innovation, technology, and digital innovation, and how they affect, for better or worse, our global journey toward gender equity and the empowerment of women and girls. So calling upon what we know to be your impressive personal history of ministering to people who have been experiencing homelessness as a founder and a longtime director of Sophia Housing in Ireland, which provides trauma-informed and supported housing in many parts of the country now. So drawing a bit on that experience, I wondered if you might kind of reflect on this theme for the Commission of the Status of Women and comment on how innovation or technology played a role in the launch or the ongoing flourishing of Sophia Housing.
Interesting question, Teresa. Well, I was thinking this week, and I guess it's 30 years ago, and I was working in an advice centre in Dublin for homeless people to come and get advice. And it usually was across the desk and bits of paper everywhere, until one day, this young man came in with his mobile and he said, "Can you give me the numbers, etc., etc." I got such a shock. I thought, oh, so our job is over. So it was a wonderful point, actually. Whilst I still think housing and support needs and trauma-informed care are very important and policy changes needed to be made, technology advancement really can support the whole person. And one of the things that I was thinking of this morning, if we have the two hands or the two sections, the person who has experienced government representatives, whoever they have to meet, working together, in conversation together, to me, it's bingo. The other thing that has struck me as well, Teresa, is that if we have more technology to support people who are homeless, they should only have to register once, and it should go through the multiple organizations have to go through. It means they don't have to keep repeating their story and being traumatized. But the other thing is, it's the change for the statutory organizations. So with that piece of technology out of the way, they can now engage with the person. They don't have to put anything up online. They don't need any details. But what is going on for you? So for me, there's both the positive and the challenge of it, because then again, we need finance for it. And I believe everybody shouldn't be online. Groups shouldn't be online until everyone is online. I think that's what they say. And I just believe that. But I also think that we have to look at the person rather than the tech. So I think that's one of the good things that have happened through the advocacy of Sophia over 25 years. We've made better connections, there's better work methods, and still there are difficulties in people accessing what they should access because they don't have a computer, they can't get online, etc. So we have a university that associated with Sophia, and they have provided the computers and what's needed for the people that reside in Sophia to access what they need. But for me, there's nothing better than the story, the actual. I really want to hear what I can help you with. So, you know, everything I've been talking about is relational, Teresa. And that's really where I want that piece to get to, particularly for women, children, girls. Really need somebody to hear their story. They don't want somebody to keep putting something up on a machine.
That's right. It's always a risk when working through digital means that things will become kind of colder or less personal. Although I guess we've all found, even in our own setting, sometimes we've conducted prayer services online even and found that there's some more connection and a warmer connection there than we might have expected, if we bring the right intention to it, and reach out to each other in a spiritual way as well as a digital way, that those kinds of feelings can actually translate.
Yeah.
So you've already spoken a little bit about this, but is there anything else that you'd like to add about kind of how innovation, which doesn't need to be technological innovation per se, there are of course many forms of innovation, but how have you seen innovation or technology or digital education affecting women and girls who are experiencing housing insecurity?
You're breaking up as you go along, but I can get the drift of what you're saying, Teresa. But I suppose because we're in CSW fortnight, I have a challenge, and it would be really to where will we hear the voices of people with an experience of homelessness organized through CSW? That the lived experience is really important. And it's trying to find a way of how to make that connection. So that's coming from this CSW, and I affirm what they are doing, but nonetheless, there are challenges as well. And the voices of people left behind, as well as young people that we've experienced this week, cannot even get into the UN, cannot get visas, etc., etc. So our work continues, really. And just in case I'm finishing, Teresa, somebody gave me, sent me a reflection a few days ago, and it has stayed with me since. And if it's okay with you, I'd just love to say it because it reminds me of you and me, the people we work with, people who are journeying. We have a privileged journey with people who are left behind, I think. And she said, wait for us, not waiting for us to catch up, but wait for us to find our place in the world. Then walk with us.
Great guidance and a wonderful suggestion. And where, from whom did you hear that?
Well, it's one of the directors of UNANIMA, and she did give me the persons who quoted it, but of course I can't remember. I think the second name begins with B, but I'll get it to you, Teresa.
Well, that's great. We'd love to have that written somewhere. I think that's a great reminder to us all, the sort that we could almost hang on a wall and look at every day, the same way that you pick up that badge and remember that you're here for 24 congregations of amazing women who have been leading and innovating in all kinds of ways for centuries in some cases now. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add to our conversation, or
I don't think so, Teresa.
Okay. Well, in that case, then we will call it a day on this chat about UNANIMA International and the 67th Commission on the Status of Women. And if anyone would like to learn more about UNANIMA, you can find their website is unanima-international.org. And if anyone would like to learn more about the Justice Coalition of Religious, we are JCOR 2030, the number is 2030.org. And you can see what we mean when we talk about collaboration and advocacy and trying to bring in voices of women and girls and so many other groups who have a much greater barrier to having their voices heard at the United Nations. So once again, thank you, Jean. It's been lovely to chat with you as always.
So much, Lisa.
And now we go on to continue the work.
Absolutely. And thank you, Teresa. It's always it's an experience, wisdom experience to be with you.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.